Somebody who uses Obamacare asked a question to Paul Ryan during his CNN town hall recently, and I wanted to share it with you.
I was a Republican, and I worked for the Reagan and Bush campaigns. Just like you, I was opposed to the Affordable Care Act. When it was passed, I told my wife we would close our business before I complied with this law. Then, at 49, I was given 6 weeks to live with a very curable type of cancer. We offered 3 times the cost of my treatments, which was rejected. They required an insurance card. Thanks to the Affordable Care Act, I'm standing here today alive. Being both a small business person and someone with pre-existing conditions, I rely on the Affordable Care Act to be able to purchase my own insurance. Why would you repeal the Affordable Care Act without a replacement?
Oh, we wouldn't do that. We want to replace it with something better. First of all, I'm glad you're standing here. I mean, really, seriously. I mean, really.
Can I say one thing? I hate to interrupt you. Can
I
say one thing? I want to thank President Obama from the bottom of my heart because I would be dead if it weren't for him.
That is such a great clip because it shows how off the spectrum Republicans are today. So understand something about Obamacare. We've brought this up time and time and time again, and I still don't think many people know it. But the heart of Obamacare is what's called the individual mandate, which is to its core a right-wing idea. So Richard Nixon had proposed a similar plan for healthcare. Bob Dole in 1996, who ran against Clinton, Bob Dole was the Republican. He proposed a similar plan to this when he ran. The Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing think tank, they wrote policy papers laying out in detail their philosophy, which was very similar to this plan, the idea of the individual mandate. Newt Gingrich supported something similar to it. Chuck Grassley. These are deeply, deeply, deeply conservative Republicans and establishment conservative Republicans. So that was their response to the liberal bill. The liberal bill, of course, is single payer. That's the idea of the government is the single insurer, and the for-profit company shouldn't be in control. It should be, you're born and you have health care immediately, and you never don't have it because it comes out of your tax dollars. There's a percentage of your income tax that goes to health care, and you never have to worry about paying for health care. It's what virtually every other modern nation does. So instead of getting a single-payer system or a public option, when Obama had a supermajority, he caved all the way to the Republican idea, which was the individual mandate. Now, the Republicans, in their eternal obstinance and obstructionist mindset, they said, wrong. Now we disagree with our own bill and our own proposals because you're proposing it. And then they came up with all these nonsense arguments. You want our grandmas to die. You're horrible. You have death panels, and this is socialism. It is quite literally the opposite of a socialist bill. I wish that Obama did single payer, which is a socialist bill. So they turned and did an about-face on their own legislation. So now they got nowhere to go. The Democrat did your idea. And let me be clear about something. Was Obamacare better than what we had before? Yes! Yes! Our system was so immensely, colossally bad that any reform would have been good reform. Any reform at all. And that's what we got with Obamacare. We got 30 million more people covered. There were some good provisions in Obamacare like, hey, pre-existing conditions. The companies can't reject you for that anymore. Companies have to keep kids on their parents' rolls if the parents choose until they're 26 years old. It used to be a lot lower than that. The ratio that the companies can spend on care it went up. It used to be like some companies had 50-50. They spend 50% of the money that they get on healthcare, 50% on overhead and paperwork and nonsense. Now it's like 80% or something like that. So it was better than nothing. But that's how far the spectrum has shifted to the right, where the Democratic Party does the Republican idea, and the Republicans are in favor of complete and utter anarcho-capitalism in the healthcare market, which is as bad as you could ever have it. So let the insurance companies do whatever the fuck they want to do. Don't mandate more people are covered. And it's just the wild, wild west, which means we're going to have 30 million more people uninsured. And we're going to have more than 45,000 people that die every year that don't have access to basic health care. That was the case just before Obamacare. Obamacare may have ticked that down a little bit, but now it's going to go right back up. And they're also going to get rid of probably the best provisions in Obamacare, like the Medicaid expansion, for example. You get rid of the Medicaid expansion, that means you're lowering the income threshold for Medicaid, which means you're just kicking lower middle class people off of having insurance, and then they're not going to go get care when they need it, and they're going to die. In fact, we've covered stories about that where people die. Now, here you have somebody, I'm a Republican, I'm a small business owner, I hated Obamacare. Guess what? It saved my life. And what's Paul Ryan's response? Well, I'm happy you're alive. Really? Your voting record would not indicate that. The voting record of every single Republican in Congress wouldn't indicate that because they all voted against Obamacare. So talk is cheap, Paul. Talk is very, very, very cheap. You know what matters in politics? Policy. Your voting record. And your voting record says to this guy, drop dead. And you're about to make that same message crystal clear again. Because as we covered, the Republicans are coming for Obamacare with a fucking sledgehammer. So this shows you how off the spectrum the Republican Party is. And let me be clear about something. They're so off the spectrum that they make Donald Trump look reasonable. When Trump goes out there and says, we're going to do an infrastructure bill, we're going to rebuild America, we're going to do an infrastructure bill, we're going to fix the infrastructure, we're going to stop doing all these wars, we're going to stop doing them, and it's going to be tremendous, believe me. We're going to not cut Social Security, we're going to not cut Medicare. That's what's going to happen. We're not going to cut it, it's not going to happen. Big Pharma's getting away with murder. We're going to crack down on Big Pharma. That's what we're going to do. Now, he always contradicts himself, but at least half the time he says shit like that. You don't hear anything like that from any of the other mainstream Republicans. Paul Ryan, not in a million years, would say something like that. He's trying to cut Medicare right now. He's trying to cut Social Security right now. So this is how off the spectrum these lunatics are, and they control every level of government. God help us all, in some instances, Donald Trump is our only hope to not get the most draconian bills passed. And I don't want to rely on that guy for dick. So that sounded really creepy. I don't want to rely on him for dick. Jokes aside, we're so off the spectrum on the right-wing side, and the answer is we need real Democrats, principled Democrats, who aren't corporatist Democrats, who aren't establishment Democrats. We need Democrats who are progressive. We need Democrats who are liberal. We need Democrats who are from the Bernie wing of the party to rise up, pull the spectrum back to a place where it's reasonable, block all the unraveling that's going to happen, and also take us in the right direction with the right policies.